I would like to inform you that we are going to conduct this special session, today's session about fundamentals of project management. In today's session, we will discuss about project management fundamentals, what all the project management terminologies we are using, project management phases, and project management knowledge areas. So beginning with, as you know, this agenda of our discussion would be what is a project. So coming to a particular thing that what we are discussing, we are hearing about a lot of things, that what is a project, how it is being done, and how we are going to manage it. Firstly, the basic thing we should understand is what is a project. So we will have these kind of learnings from initial stages, that is what is a project, what is project management, what all the project management terminologies we are using, why it is essential or why it is required, what all the project phases and knowledge areas are required, are being utilized, and are specified as a standardized or as standardized as for particularly going forward for a project. How the project management got involved, what are the typical job roles, the case study, and a project management career path. So moving ahead, what is project? I'm sure you might have heard of this term very often. What is a project? We have to manage it. This kind of project or that kind of project, a bullet train project or an IT project, having a webinar. Right now we are conducting a webinar, right? So having a webinar, conducting it is also a project. So what do you mean by a project? Project is nothing but a temporary endeavor that we undertake, and when we complete it successfully, results in a product, a service, or a result. So this is a definition which was given by Pembroke. Now, having a better and clear picture, project is something which, whenever we work on any project, it gives a particular output. So whenever we work on something, it gives a particular output at the end, which is a predefined output. It includes a sequence of tasks. It always has a definite beginning and a definite end. So, for example, if I talk about, if we take an example of an IT product. So if we are working on an IT project in which we have to produce a particular output or IT product for recruitment, then we have to launch a recruitment product in the market that helps all the recruitment agencies to work properly, effectively, and efficiently so that they can complete the end-to-end recruitment process effectively. And through that IT product, the recruited source or the candidate which is recruited is monitored, is utilized, and is assessed whether that recruited candidate is efficient enough or not. So basically, it helps in the development of certain activities or a certain parameters that helps in the launch of an IT product, that helps IT recruitment agencies or the recruitment agencies for a recruitment of a particular candidate. Right. So it has certain type of tasks involved. It has sequence of activities, which has definite beginning and definite end. It has definite outcomes and deliverable. It has a fixed deadline. Every project has a fixed deadline. Right. It always has a fixed budget. It always has a fixed and predefined budget. So whenever we launch that particular product in the market, we go through various phases of the project for which we are going to talk about it in the further slides. So if I talk about project, you have seen that there are, in our slides also, it is written that it has a sequence of tasks that has different beginning and end. It has defined outcome and deliverables. It has fixed deadlines. It is predefined budget. So if I go one by one, what do you mean by sequence of tasks that has definite beginning and end? It means a project has a certain planned and various activities that are arranged in a sequential manner, right? So a sequence is defined. It has been planned through various set of activities which are well planned sequential way, in a sequential way that has a definite start and a definite end. For example, conducting this webinar is a sequence of activities. Many people are involved in it. Many people, resources, and a time is involved in it. So it has a fixed deadline, right? It has a fixed deadline of 45 minutes that we have to conduct that webinar in 45 minutes. So that is a fixed deadline. It has a fixed budget. It has a fixed outcome and deliverable. And deliverable is we have to deliver a certain topic to the students so that it clears students and clarifies their understanding of that particular topic, and that topic is fundamentals of project management, right? So it has a defined outcome and deliverables. That is, we are in I have spoke about the example of IT, right? So in that IT product example, I told that we, in our case, need that product that would help recruitment agencies to take up or finish end-to-end process of recruitment in a timely manner. So that is something which is related to the deliverable, or what you call it, related to the project. So our project basically has a definite outcome, and that is delivery of an IT product, which helps all the recruitment agencies to get or to analyze the resource, helps in the onboarding process of a candidate, help to analyze his skills and knowledge areas, and to understand whether that candidate is suitable for that particular position or not. So that is a different outcome. It has, now moving forward, it always has a fixed deadline. You might have heard of this phrase that time is of the essence. This is a legal phrase which we use to specify that the time period in which one party must complete its contractual obligations to the other party. Failure to meet these deadlines set in the contract, time is of the essence clause, results in the breach of contract, right? So this is something which is, which means that time is the essence of the contract. Every project is bounded by a time. Every project is bounded by the deadline. So we should understand those things. Right. So moving ahead, as it is given in the slide also, that it has a predefined budget. See, everything in this world, or we call it as everything which we are doing, has a predefined time and a predefined deadline or a predefined budget. It always has a fixed budget. We cannot, so we always fix that, yes, this is the borderline. This is the margin which we cannot exceed. This is the line which we have to control. Right? So project is something which is actually a temporary endeavor that we undertake, and when we complete it successfully, results in a product, service, or result. So that is the definition of a project. Okay. So moving ahead, what do you mean by project management? Right? So if you call project, this much we understood about the project, then what do you mean by project management? Project management is nothing but the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to the project activities to meet that project requirement. So as per PMBOK, this is the definition of the project management. Whenever we have a certain kind of project, we need people, we need process, we need products, we need a particular project to manage it, right? So Basically, project management involves 4 P's. For a delivery of a particular product, we need a certain kind of processes. That process can be done with a certain set of skilled and experienced people, right? Those people, those skilled people and experienced people are forming this kind of chain of actions and chain of sequential activities which comes under process to deliver that particular product. And this whole thing comes under a project. So the management of those activities by the people or by the skilled experienced people through tools and techniques to deliver a certain kind of product is known as the project management. I hope I'm clear to all. So we should understand that it is nothing but a way in which a person organizes, manages resources or the people that are necessary, that are required to complete a project. Right? So managing those activities, managing those set of instructions or set of sequential activities is known as project management. Though it is done by project manager, we have certain roles defined for a particular person, but management of those activities is done by project manager, and that management is known as project management. Okay. So moving ahead, what do you mean by project management terminologies? Project management terminologies includes basically 2 things. First is project lifecycle and other is project manager. So if I talk about project lifecycle, we always come across those things that what is a project, how it is being done, and what do you mean by project lifecycle? So project lifecycle is nothing. It is a sequential problem that comprise of unique stages and phases. These unique stages and phases will eventually come to know after the in the coming slides. In the coming slides, it will be more clear. But for understanding purpose, I'll just tell that project lifecycle includes various phases, right? So each and every activity in a project is distributed or is segregated in certain set of process groups or in certain set of project phases. So those phases or those unique stages are known as project phases. So those project phases are defined as initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. We will understand it more and have more clarity over it in the upcoming slides. If I tell you about the project manager, what does the project manager do? Project management is the way a person organizes manage resources that are necessary to complete a project, which I already told you. But how that person can do? Who is that person? Person is actually the project manager. Project manager is the person who used to manage that project. Okay, he has certain defined roles and responsibilities. He is responsible for managing the whole process, the whole set of resources to achieve that target, and the target is to achieve that deliverable, and that is the product, right? So he has to manage that product in such a way, in such a way that the deliverable or the outcome is achieved. Now, let's understand an example what and how the project lifecycle works. So, firstly, for a project which has to be identified, we need to understand what is an opportunity. So, opportunity means that wherever there is a need, there is an opportunity, right? By that, I mean that we need to identify where are the loopholes, right? For certain process, we need to identify what an opportunity is. So we need to firstly find out the loopholes. Then we need to identify how can we overcome those problems or those loopholes. How can we eradicate that? That gives us an opportunity to identify or to manage that, to make a project out of it, right? there is always, whenever the need comes, there always comes an opportunity about it. So, firstly, we need to identify an opportunity. Then, what people used to do, people used to give a business proposal or a business case of that opportunity. That yes, we found that loophole and we have a certain solution for this. That solution is provided in a business proposal form or in a business case form. This proposal is then moved forward for approval from the sponsor or the client, from which we get approval. So people used to prepare those business case or business proposal. Especially the project manager used to do this. Project manager used to propose a business proposal. Yes, that there is a need of this kind of activity. For example, I just spoke about our example of IT recruitment product, right? So if I, so we identified that there is a requirement of an IT recruitment product by which we could utilize and find out the projects, this those talent which are much required in our organization. So through those, so we just identified the opportunities, and then we proposed a business proposal or a business case. We presented that to our clients, to our sponsors, and in such a way that we get approval of it. So the next process is getting approval from the client or the sponsor. So we should not, it's not like that we just got the opportunity, we just got the need, we created an opportunity and we proposed a business proposal. It got certified by the client. The client used to, or the sponsor used to criticize it, evaluate it, and then used to approve it. So getting an approval is another case. It's another project for many of us. So getting approval of that business case and proposal is another thing, is a major task which we have to get it, which we have to get accomplished. After getting that approval or for that business case or proposal, then client or sponsor fixes a kind of fund, a fixed budget, which I was speaking about. So there is always a fixed budget in a project, a predefined budget. So fixes that fund on the project. That fund allocation to the team and the project managers. That fund is allocated to the team and to the project managers in such a way that project can be initiated. So then the project setup starts, and the team used to allocate resources, and then they used to try to build everyone. Like there should be project manager, there can be scheduler, there can be technical person, and there can be administrative person who will look into those matters, that who will look into the things which are required for the delivery of the product. The administrative person will look into the attendance of the person, and who will come and go out, and what all the time keeping are required. So that will help in the cost evaluation of the project. Technical person will look into what is the requirement, what all the opportunities are there, what all the loopholes are there, how can we eradicate that. So how can we eradicate those things? How can we identify the loopholes and then eradicate the problems? That is done by the project, the technical team. Then the project setup starts, right? So this all comes in the project setup. After the project setup, project managers take up the kickoff meetings, in which he prescribes what is actually the deliverable, what is actually the product which we have to launch. So this comes in the kickoff meeting, and then the project gets started. So this is the sequence of activities in which the project lifecycle works. Going ahead, what all the successful project attributes? So if I talk about successful project attributes, there are various things which you can see in the slides also. For a successful project, there must be an approach. And how should that approach be? That approach should be planned and organized. We should have a planned and organized approach towards achievement of that goal, or towards achievement of that delivery of that product or that deliverable. We should have a commitment. Commitment means a team should be committed enough. So the team which we have appointed or on that particular project should be committed enough to that particular work. Right? It cannot be like that resources are not working properly. So that means there is a lack of commitment. We need to rectify that. We need to closely monitor it, and we need to rectify the loopholes. So that only will result in a successful project. So team commitment is equally important. We need to assign those resources who are skilled enough, who are knowledgeable enough, who are committed to that achievement of the goal or the commitment of achievement of that particular product. That is equally important. Other thing is time management. Time management is another task which is very much important for a successful project. Why? Because if we are not aligning to the timelines, there might be, there is actually, there will be a lag of the things. I mean, there will be a lag of, there might be a various loss from the client end, from the contractor's end, from various losses. Then we have to go through, there will be delay analysis and everything which will come out. So time management is equally important. Time management should be properly done. So a proper time management is equally important for a successful project. Now coming to the resource optimization. Resource optimization means if there are 3 or 4 resources assigned to a particular task, we need to see how much idle time they are taking. So allocating a particular resource to a particular activity and analyzing that how much idle time they are taking and utilizing that idle time in another activity is known as resource optimization. So how can we use the existing resources in a particular project so that the idle time is less or least, I should say. That makes our project more successful. So you might have find that there are certain projects for any building construction or various things. You might find that we used to calculate idle time by the project or by the idle time of the laborers, especially by the labor sitting so idle in that particular task. So for laying any kind of foundation or for any laying of or for any brickwork or for any particular activity, we find we always used to calculate the idle time for any particular labor. And then we utilize those skills of that labor to any other particular activity so that a resource could be utilized in multiple activities, right? And the multiple activities can be done in such a way that the timely doing of activities can be managed properly. Next is monitoring and control. Monitoring and control is very much important. How it is important? Because we need to see that the result which we are opting for or which we are actually aspiring for is achieved or not. We need to understand that the result which we are aspiring is achieved in a proper manner. For that, we should understand how can we do it. We should always do monitoring and controlling for each and every activity. Right? So there are always quality checks every time. In every activity, you will find there are quality checks. So for finding, yeah, this activity is not as per the standard or this work is not as per standards. So we need to meet those standards. That is why monitoring and controlling is a continual process. It goes from initiation to the closing of the project. And maybe after that also, because there are delay analysis, there is a defect liability period after the project gets closed. After that also, during that period, during the DLP or the defect liability period also, the quality control happens. So that monitoring and control is an activity which starts from the initiation phase until the closing phase. It continues from initiation to the closing phase. So this is a very major activity and it has a very vital role in the project, in the successful project completion. Last but not the least, customer satisfaction. So customer satisfaction is something which is very much required, right? What we are doing, we are actually preparing a product or doing a certain doing certain thing which needs customer satisfaction. We are delivering a kind of product, and that product has to be utilized by the people, right? So their satisfaction is equally important. We need to achieve that kind of skill. I hope it's making sense to all of you. So if I go ahead now, requirement of project management. Okay, so many times we think and why we need the project to be managed, by what is the necessity of it. If we could just enter your comments in the chat box, that would be great. Let's look and understand how it is. What is your understanding? So why there is a requirement of project management? The requirement of project management is because we should understand, we should ensure that the proper expectations are set around, right? And how these proper expectations are set around? These are through scope, a well-defined scope, through a fixed deadline, and through a predefined budget, right? So always we ask why there is a requirement of project management. There is a requirement of project management because we have to deliver a certain task, a certain scope, right? And for that delivery of scope, it has to be done in within a predefined timeline, and that timeline is defined by our management people. They used to go through various processes, various initiation and planning processes, in which they decide how much time a particular activity can take. Through various uh, combinations and permutations, they analyze that yes, this is the actual time in which that project can be completed, right? And through that project and through various calculations, they get to know that how much is the budget. There is always that kind of calculations which goes around. We should always understand. We should always understand that proper expectations are always achieved, right? That product should always be achieved. What we are expecting.